Welcome back, everybody, to the living novel. We've been talking about this for a while. It's a new genre of literature. It lives, it eats, it breathes. It combines people together and adds stories and continues on. But we're going to go more into that later. But a lot of people that did log in and join us the last time, I mentioned that when this show airs, if you went to the BaysideExperiment.com, we take down a home page. It's kind of a landing page, and we open it up, and you can go in and experiment and look around at what we're doing with it. And we got a bunch of fun things. The last time, we were showing people photographs of things that look like faces, and I've been doing that for a while. I mean, I would look at something and say, "Doesn't that look like a face?" And then finally, a guy said to me, I looked at it, I said, "Doesn't that look like a face to you?" And he said, "Oh, there's a name for that. It's called it's called pareidolia." I hate the name; it's stupid, but I've been seeing faces and things for years. So on the website, there's this one section about pareidolia, and I told the story and I showed the picture that in the Grand Canyon, I'm walking around the Grand Canyon, and I see this ridge. And the way the way the top of the ridge is laid out, it looks like five faces, and like cartoon characters. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. And so I told one of the park rangers, I said, "You see that thing?" Because he had a whole bunch of people with him. And I said, "You see that ridge over there? Do you ever talk about that?" And he's like, "No." I said, "Don't you see the faces there?" He's like, "Faces there." And when I took a picture of it and I enlarged each face individually, he's like, "Oh yeah, hey, that's cool." So what's fun is we called it the Board of Directors of the Grand Canyon, and now this park ranger, every time he gives a tour, he goes to that spot and he shows it to people. So I don't know, I'm kind of proud of that I actually named something in the Grand Canyon that now the park rangers talk about on their tours. But if you logged into the Bayside Experiment while this is on, the BaysideExperiment.com, it'll go to a website, and there's one section called Pareidolia, and it has all kinds of pictures. I've got friends now sending me pictures from different places. So that's a little fun section of the book, of the online book. And the last time I was on, people were logging in with me, and we were talking about it. It was kind of fun. So BaysideExperiment.com. If you're watching me now and you can see me now, log in, and we'll get you. We'll show you, and you'll have fun with what we do. So, but right now I have a really wonderful guest. I moved from Southampton out to Montauk, and after Hurricane Sandy threw out in my house and water, I was like, okay, time to move. And I loved Montauk, so. So I moved out to Montauk, and I totally love it, and I'm meeting really wonderful people. And this guy that I met went into this gallery, and I was like, "Oh, hey, this is a really nice gallery." I went in, and it's Chris Lucore, and I want to introduce everybody to Chris. Chris, thank you for coming.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Gregg, for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah. But that Heim beat me to it. So he had you on his show before I'm getting you on mine. Or have you been on his show before?
I've been on Heim's show.
Oh, have you?
Times.
Okay.
Yeah, Heim and I work together a lot with curating shows and collaborating on pieces between us and being on Heim's show. So we're
love
always
that guy.
chit-chatting. Yeah, he's a force of nature.
He
Heim
is. I call him one of the great thinkers of our time. He's
definitely.
Just this really interesting thinker, and the way he thinks. And I even say he's got a kind of artistic way of thinking about things, and creative way. But he's a writer, and he talks about when you have to write a poem and why. So every once in a while we've been on together and we'll banter back and forth, and it's hard for me to keep up with him, but I love that guy. And you guys had just done an opening of together at here at LTV.
Yes.
Tell us about that a little bit.
So the opening that we just did here is the exhibition is called Growth Phase, and it's a show that Heim put together featuring, I believe, 7 or 8 artists. And so we bring all the work in, and Heim and I have a bunch of fun moving things around and figuring out where things are going to go. But this exhibition for me was particularly exciting because Heim gave me a very large space, and he said, "Chris, this is your wall. Do whatever you want."
Right outside the main studio.
Yeah, right outside the main studio.
The Francis Dougherty studio.
Yeah.
So,
And Growth Phase, I think, was a very fitting title for the exhibition because, I mean, the paintings that I brought here
yeah.
were all very much a part of my growth phase. There are paintings that I did between 2021 and 2022 where I was working on smaller canvases and I was just pushing ideas in lots of different directions and I was sort of developing the process that I'm working with today. So on that wall alone, I think it shows a lot of progress from where I was 2 years ago and now where I am now.
So it's a lot of progress. How would you measure? What is a measure of growth? Is it an incremental thing? Is it just a general thing, or the way you feel about something? But how can you judge your own growth in an artistic endeavor?
Well, I think there's a lot of different ways to measure growth.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, no worries. I think there's a lot of different ways to measure that growth, but a lot of it is clear as day. You know, when you
Yeah.
look at the piece, art is a visual medium. So if you're looking at a piece made, 2 years ago versus a piece that I made today, there's a lot of things that are different.
Yeah.
Those pieces are 18 by 24 inches. The pieces that I'm making today are 60 by 48 inches or thereabouts. So I mean, just the size alone has expanded quite a bit. And then you can look. Even say if you're looking at a picture of the work on your phone, now everything is shrunk to the same size. So you can think compositional strength. Where is this composition that I did before? What are the things that are linking it together? And what are the principles that have changed that I'm using now? So I feel like when I look at my work, a lot of that's visible to me. I can see what I was doing before and what I'm doing now, and it's very clear visually.
Wow, that's cool. So, and you have your own gallery in Montauk, the Lucore Gallery. And now that I've met you and I've come to a couple of the openings, it's always exciting, and always have great crowds of people coming in there.
Okay.
So, so how did you decide to open up your own gallery?
So I had an interesting path to getting to the point where I opened the gallery. When I opened the gallery, I was pretty fresh out of college, and in college, I had studied studio art and chemistry, and so chemistry I was intimidated by, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to pursue a career in chemistry. It was intimidating, but art I've always been inspired by. I felt like art always gave me the freedom to make my own right answers, which was very powerful to me. And then in my capstone class for my art major, it was all about gallery curation. The college had a gallery on campus, and the students all got to select work and put together a show. And I loved it. The bringing the work in, unwrapping the work was like Christmas morning, getting my eyes on it, deciding where in the room each piece fit so you could stand back and get the biggest view, what made sense to put next to that piece, making sure everything was on the same center line. These visual details that could take the work and bring it into a cohesive exhibition were very intriguing to me, the decisions that I could make there. So that class blew me away, and then I graduated in 2020 right into the pandemic, so they sent us home from our spring semester, and I was out in Montauk. I ended up having some personal health problems, and I was feeling very isolated. I was just painting, and painting can be lonely. You know, it's just you and your canvas in your studio, and I wanted a way that allowed me to engage with the broader community because Montauk is such a vibrant art scene, hundreds and hundreds of artists out in the Hamptons, and like how could I connect with that and become one of them? And by using all the fun that I had learned in that capstone class in college with gallery curation, and then the timing, the gallery that I moved into had just closed because of the pandemic. They figured, who's going to be coming to art receptions? And so I thought, well, this is my opportunity. Here's an open gallery. Here I am looking for something to do. I think I'll just dive right in. And so that was 3.5 years ago now. We're in the 4th year of the gallery. And I mean, things have really expanded.
4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, first I want to backpedal a little bit. So making your own right answers, So yeah, that's what art is. You're creating something and you're finding your own path and saying, no, this is the right way for your own artistic sense.
Yeah.
So finding your own right answers. I always said that about art, about when you're learning from art class and everything. And I was always like, but what? And if someone didn't do something the way they were taught in art class, it was wrong. I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. That's stupid. It's what about the original thought? At some point, someone had to have the original thought and creativity, and everything grew from there. So unless you follow that first artist, you're wrong. That doesn't make sense to me. So I love finding your own right answers.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, especially for me when I was in school, with the contrast between the way I was learning in chemistry and the way I was learning in studio art. I mean, of course, in studio art, they're pulling you through each medium. So they're teaching you how to use the media and traditionally the way that things have been done. But there's always that freedom it's your painting, you're the one using these materials. So how are you going to utilize it, and what are you going to do? And for me, coming from chemistry, I mean, for chemistry, I felt like I was just there trying to learn everything that was already there. There was always a right answer, and I had to memorize it. And maybe I knew the right answer, or maybe I didn't. In art, they gave you the assignment, and all you had to do was do something, do something that you were happy about, something that you were interested, show that you engaged with the material that they gave you, and incorporated it, and then spit it out however you interpreted it. So that to me was powerful. It was like, no matter what I did, as long as I was doing something, I was doing the right thing. In chemistry, I could try and spend hours memorizing, and then I would go into the test and I'd still get 40% of it wrong.
Yeah. So, well, but art, you can't go wrong. It's yours. It's what you decide, your way you're expressing it. So when you have your own gallery, it's your own art, but also you're bringing in other artists.
Yeah.
How do you choose the artists that do people like apply to you and say, hey, I'd like to show at your gallery, and then you get to pick and choose and say yes, no? How do you choose?
So that old saying, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
So with the gallery, if you build it, the first people that come are the artists.
Yeah.
So when I opened, I wasn't like I had a whole roster of artists and people who I thought I wanted to show. I mean, I was just getting started. And so opening the gallery connected me with a lot of artists. And every opportunity that I do connects me with more artists. Artists introduce me to their friends. Their friends make recommendations of artists. And so I'm always looking at art and talking to artists about their art. And what I look for is passion. Like, I want to see people who have ideas that they're excited about, and they're actively chasing and figuring out how they can express their ideas. So my gallery, I'm mostly an abstract painter, but the gallery isn't just an abstract art gallery. I don't only show abstraction. I show things that people are passionate about. I like to show a little bit of everything, photography, abstraction, surrealism. If I did an abstraction show last week, maybe I'll do a photography show the next week, so that's always bouncing around. There's no specific thing that I'm looking for in the type of art I want to show. It's more the attitude that the artist has towards what they're doing. I mean, if they can get me excited about their work, then I think that I can get other people excited about their work. So I look for that sort of contagious enthusiasm and passion.
So how would you know and look at something and say, oh, this artist is going to go. This person is going to grow and become more recognized and more recognized?
Well, I think you can kind of see, you can see glimmers of talent when you look through all the past work. Like I look at depending on the art you're looking at, there's all different ways of building composition. So I think it's important to keep an open mind and actually engage with the work that the artist is putting before you. And then you have to see, what's the strength of their idea? Are they just saying, I want to do this because I think it's going to sell? I mean, because that's not a very strong reasoning to do something. Are they saying, I want to do this because this is what I love, and I think that I have something important to say about this, and through my art, I can say that.
But still, if you're owning your own gallery, you got to be a businessman about it. You pay rent there, or do you own the building?
I pay rent.
So you got to pay the rent. So you have to sell things. So that's got to be a tough balance. It's like, well, I'm not really doing this because it sells, but it does look like that it sell, right? So, every time I go in there, you have wonderful artists. It's not like some touristy kind of thing about Montauk. It's like, oh, buy this picture of the lighthouse, because it's Montauk, and you don't do that kind of thing. You have artists that are expressing themselves in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
So Dalton, we love Dalton,
Love
right?
Dalton.
So Dalton is a guy that I look at his art and I look at him, and I actually see an artist as soon as I talk to him. That guy's an artist, and the stuff that he does. I was at the opening out in Montauk at the gallery, and talked to him about a couple of his pieces. But those criteria, the passion, the intensity, what he goes for. But he does a lot of nautical stuff. And you were mentioning that you've got a theme coming up on your next opening.
Yes, so my next opening is going to be called Under the Sea. Under the Sea by the Water is the full title. And it's a group show of East End artists. Dalton will actually be in the show. He'll be bringing some of his lovely watercolor great white sharks. And, so this is one way that you can kind of work towards the environment. I mean, one type of art that people are looking for in Montauk are these nautical themes because it ties to Montauk. Montauk's a maritime town. Mm-hmm. And so, this is one way to pick themes for each show that people will be naturally interested in. But the great thing is about a theme like Under the Sea is there's all different types of ways to approach that. You could paint the sea creatures, you could paint the reflection of the light coming through the water. A great thing about a themed group show is you can take people who are taking all types of material approaches as well. Like one artist I have for the show, Gianna D'Agostino, she did a hand crocheted coral reef with several different types of coral and jellyfish floating above.
Oh, I saw the one picture you sent it.
Yeah. And that's very exciting. Not a lot of people out here, their medium is crochet, and not a lot of people. I mean, she put 1,500 hours into that piece. Like, that's dedication, that's passion to get that done. So, and then with the themes, then you can go in a totally different direction. I have an artist who made an octopus that hangs on the wall out of all recycled motorcycle parts. So that has a totally contrasting feel to, the light, colorful crochet, soft. Now this is hard, rusted steel, but still building into the octopus. You can get a lot of variety, and there's ways to play to the theme while still showcasing the amazing artistry and not just worrying about, is this going to sell? I like to showcase artists, not art. I like to showcase passion.
You like to showcase artists. There's an artist that I know from out in Queens and Bayside, and I saw her art in a gallery, and I talked to her, and she had a interesting mind, a very creative mind. But it turns out that she came out to your gallery, Lisa Gindy. And I have a Lisa Gindy in my apartment, and a bridge, and I liked her style and everything. And then I actually commissioned something from her. I had this lamp, and it had these roses in it, and it was. I just remember growing up; it was beautiful. And then someplace along the line, some numbskull in our family, probably me, painted it white over these gorgeous colored flowers. So I gave it to Lisa. I said, Lisa, would you want to do this for me? And she came back with this gorgeous lamp and the flowers in it. That's the way she painted it. But then she did this lampshade in Lisa Gindy style. And that was something that I always kind of said. It's really hard to create something that someone can look at and go, oh, that's so-and-so's. So with Lisa, I like the fact that I can look at her work and say, oh, and not know, but I look at her and say, oh, that's a Lisa Gindy. So I judge some people's art and artists like that. It's like, oh, because that's really hard to do something that's no one else, and you can be identified as yours. So when I looked at Lisa's, I was like, no, that's a Lisa Gindy. So here's a question for you. She actually gave this painting to me, which I love, but how do you judge how much to charge for a painting?
So that's a interesting discussion for the artist. That's a discussion between the gallery and the artist. Mostly, it's like everything else. The price is a function of your materials plus your time plus the size of the work. And some artists they have price ranges that they've operated in the past and that they're comfortable operating in. So I try not to push people outside of their comfort zone. If like this is where they're at with the price of their work, then that I support their price spectrum. I mean, artists, they all artists have very strong views about what their art is worth. And so as a gallerist, I don't feel it's my place to necessarily push an artist to feel like their work is worth more or less than they think it's worth. So it's a discussion with the artist and coming to an agreeable number for both parties.
Yeah, because every time I look at things, now I'm buying a piece from Heim, actually, that. That's Heim's, and I just loved it, and I love the way it looks, on the podcast, and the last time I came in, someone had moved. I was like, hey, hey, where's that thing? So I said, Heim, I love it, and he said, well, you want to buy it? I said, yes, I'd love it. So I'm buying that from Heim, but so I love it, but then the negotiation about it for how much, and it's like, wow, okay, but what was good was, it felt the price that he named said, oh, no, that feels right to me. I have no problem with that. It wasn't inexpensive, but and it wasn't what I would be going out and paying for it all the time. But I was like, something? No, it's worth it to me. It just felt right. And I was like, for the way I like it, the way it feels, and the fact that I'd be using it on my podcast, it's almost like a trademark. I was like, something that's worth it. So, but I need your help. I accidentally pushed the wrong button on my timer. How are we doing? Okay, great. Thanks. So, making sure that we're doing this timing. So that the video that we have, that we could show of the paintings that you submitted, can we do that?
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah, let's take a look at some of these paintings.
So this is one of my works. This work is from last year. It's called Motherboard, and this was an exciting piece for me. I'm very inspired by cosmic bodies and science fiction, and so Motherboard it's a representation of a giant computer that wraps around a star and sends out magic and water to all the planets in the solar system. Theoretically, this computer is called a Dyson sphere, and scientists are actively looking for those in the night sky as signs of alien life. This next piece, this was my year-end piece for last year. It's called Behind Closed Eyes. I think of it as the landscape of the dreams. But this piece was very important to me because it allowed me to loosen up and work in a way that allowed for more discovery.
It's very different from the other ones.
Yes. So Motherboard is a piece that I planned very much in advance and then went and worked to execute that plan. Behind Closed Eyes is a piece that was made from pieces that I saved up over 2 years, pieces of paint, and then collaged together, allowing for more freedom. This next piece, Divine Connection, goes in the same direction. I wanted to plan less and allow for more evolution as I worked through the piece. So this, those blobs, I was very loose in the way I drew it. Quick blob, and then I cut it out, and then I moved them around, and I played, and I allowed the piece to become what it was through the process of making it, instead of drawing everything out and then in advance, and then working as just to produce the vision that I had initially. So it's been more abstract expressionist. And then this piece, this is called Emerald City. This piece, it reflects sort of more, this is 2023, before I started to loosen up a little bit. I was doing a lot with circles because they fit my cosmic theme, and I felt that they could be interpreted in all types of ways. A mother and a child, a planet and a moon, a star and a planet revolving around it. You know, it was a powerful statement that was open to interpretation, and it allowed me to explore with my media and see how I could make different contrast. I'm a very high contrast painter, and so I did a lot of these circle compositions. This was one of the first one. This one's called Blue World, so you know, an homage to home. It's Earth and the moon, or again, the mother and the child. And so these are pieces where I found my way, and I found how I was using the techniques that I use. How was I going to have control over this liquid paint to make sure that the things that I wanted to happen were happening, and I was zoning in on those moments instead of just like having it be a little out of my control. This next piece, this is a piece by Brianna D'Amato. She will be in the Under the Sea show, which is coming up next weekend. The show is going to be June 29th. It's a Saturday from 5 to 8 p.m. And that show will be open for 3 weeks until July 17th. And you'll be able to see Brianna's work and Gianna's Coral Reef and Island's Moto Octopus and Dalton's watercolors. This here is a little view from the inside of our gallery from the current show. This show is called Heaven and Earth. It features works by Mark William Wilson. And what we did was we took 2 of his series and brought them together in a pretty epic contrast. He's got
Something? Yours is a really nice size gallery.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a perfect size. Every time I've gone to an event there, it always accommodates a nice group of people. And at the same time, it's never too crowded and pushing around. You can stand back and look at the art. So it's a great size gallery.
Oh, thank you. And we've got a lovely backyard as well. So during the receptions, you know, we have some refreshments and some appetizers back there, a little sculpture in the backyard to go walk around, come back in, look at the art again. It's all good. And then this here, this is a photo of me standing with my work in the current exhibition, Growth Phase, here at LTV. So that was the wall that Haim gave me and told me, you know, have a blast. So I brought in, I think it's 25 paintings, and I got to decide how I wanted them laid out. And that's where I nerd out, is on the installation, making everything, all the lines are straight, all the tops line up, the spaces between are even, and it all fits into a grid, you know?
But you do the great job on the lighting on it. Everything is nice and evenly lit, and
thank you. Yeah, that all goes into the curation, you know, the lighting, the placement, what's next to what, and it all helps to build for a strong show. Because especially when you have an overwhelming wall like that with 25 pieces on it, it becomes very difficult to break it apart and look at each individual piece if things aren't where they're supposed to be. If the piece next to one is demanding too much attention, you can't look at that piece and that piece. It's things start to clash. So all that placement and all those straight lines are very important.
So, well, I love going into your gallery and seeing the different artists. You also work with Donna and John, and you help them put their thing at the Depot Gallery. So that was 2 weeks. Do you guys coordinate openings at all, or artists that you share, or?
Donna and I discussed back and forth about artists that we're interested in, and my mission for Montauk is, you know, it's bigger than my gallery. I want, really what I want is for Montauk to be known as an arts town. I want people to come out to Montauk to see the amazing work we have on display. I don't want it to be as much a vacation town, a beach town. You know, it's more than just the restaurants and the beach. There's amazing art here, and Montauk and the Hamptons have such a history of art. I mean, look at Montauk. We got Andy Warhol's house is right next to the lighthouse. Look at Springs, Jackson Pollock, de Kooning. I mean, you could go on forever. And all the active artists that are out here now. So, I mean, yeah, my vision is for Montauk to be the arts center. So I do a lot of work outside of my gallery with Donna at the Depot Gallery to install their shows, and with Dalton to help a little bit with the installation of his shows.
Well, you guys have certainly succeeded in that, especially with the art shows in the middle of town. You know, you go to those, and it's funny. I'll go to the one in like in Southampton by Agawam Lake, and you're going to it, but you don't feel like it's part of the town. it's like, oh, well, they have a little, an outdoor gallery thing going on. But here, it feels like Montauk is, the artist of Montauk. So you guys have kind of succeeded in that, getting that identity for the town.
Well, thank you. And we're
Yeah.
going to continue to build that. And the Outdoor Out Show in Montauk is next weekend, too. It'll be on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And you'll be able to see a few of my nice big 48 by 60s hanging out there in the sunlight. So
Yeah,
that'll be good.
And the last one, your gallery, which is like right down the road, short walking distance, was like the VIP room. It's like, where do all the cool people go? I was like, all of a sudden I walked over and everybody was in your gallery. So there a lot of people in the center of town walking around the installations, but then walked over to your gallery. You had a great thing going on that day.
Yeah, and that show is always a great opportunity for me too to go out and do research and meet artists and talk to all the artists. I mean, because I like when artists come into the gallery, they can show me their work, but if they're already out with a display on the green, then it's very easy for me to just kind of like saunter up and start asking them questions about their work and make a closer relationship with them and see what the possibilities are about getting them in my gallery in the future. Like for the Under the Sea show, I met a number of the artists that are going to be in there through the show on the green, just from discussing their work there.
Yeah.
And that's been my problem with doing the show on the green is I'll go and I'll pitch my tent and then I'm never in it because there's so much to see and so many people to talk to, and that's what I like about it. So
the thing working with Donna and John, they're such wonderful people. And I love that they took over the depot and made that into a art gallery. And Donna's daughter, she's also working with them.
yes,
Right?
Nova.
Yeah. So, and you know that I do this little Montauk Live TV thing, just a little thing I've given to the town to do individual stories about the town. I did a surf report just for fun. And that's actually where I met Dalton. Down there, I just did saying, we're down here at Ditch Plains, and here's the surf report. And I just turned to the water and came back. And it was a crazy day in the surf. And Dalton walks down and talked to him a little bit. And then I said, oh, look, if you don't mind, I'll take some pictures of you catching some waves. So he said, oh, I love that. And then all of a sudden, this guy paddles out. And I'm looking, so where did he go? Dalton goes like 3 miles out. I'm like, where the frig did this guy go? And then I'm taking the camera, I'm zooming in again. But at this last at the gallery opening, I said that to him. He said, yeah, it used to drive his mom nuts. but the theme, the nautical theme, and having that. One of the pieces that I saw was the big fish, the blue. Was it a dolphin? I wasn't sure what it was.
There was a whale and a shark.
Yeah.
I think I sent you. So it was, I think the shark, the
Yeah.
great white shark.
So and that artist. So you keep the different show for 3 weeks. How long do you decide to leave a show going on?
So I run them 3 weeks apiece from
Yeah.
March to December. So I do every 3 weeks from March to December. They come down and then the next show goes up on the same day. So
Yeah.
they're back to back to back all year long.
But so in Montauk, kind of known for getting real quiet in the off season. Friends of mine said, Gregg, you live in Montauk, in the winter? I don't think so. It's going to be too quiet for you. And I was like, no, I love it. But you still get people coming to the gallery in December?
Yes, so actually in December is I've had some of my busiest shows at the gallery. At December, I do my my big holidays show. So I take one piece from about as many artists as I can manage. So when I started this, the first holiday show was 2 years ago. I had, I think, 55 artists. And at the end of it, I was like, oh, 55 artists, we could do more. But the reception was fabulous. I mean, for Montauk in the middle of December, everybody says it's dead. We had the place packed out. And then last year, I was like, all right, 55, I can do more. So last year I did 101 artists. And the show was incredible. And the reception, again, one of the biggest receptions I had of the year. You bring 100 artists in, and they each bring a friend, and suddenly it's a party.
Yeah, that's a lot of art in that gallery of yours.
Yeah.
I don't know how many square feet it is, but that's I just love it. It's such a perfect sized gallery. It's intimate enough, but spacious enough. But 100 artists, it must have been packed.
Well, you got to get very strategic with how you're fitting everything in. I
Yeah.
mean, I kept mostly smaller works, but man, I had a lot of fun with that installation. I think as I was leading up to the show, I was telling everybody, "Oh, I got 100 artists," and people would they'd cringe a little bit. They'd be like, "100? How are you gonna fit 100 artists in here? Like, it's gonna be a mess. There's gonna be art everywhere." And I had so much fun with it. I was building geometric configurations with the piece. It was Christmas, so I was thinking the star on top of the Christmas tree. I'm not hanging things in 2 rows. I got a piece in the middle and then pieces around it, and then it fans out, and the pieces are balanced in size and color and weight and theme, and I had all sorts of fun with it. I mean, there's all sorts of ways to build order out of chaos, and that's what I like to do. I'm the installation guy.
Yeah. But what about video art? Do you ever show anybody video art?
I haven't done a ton of video art, although I will say last year we hosted the Offshore Film Festival in Montauk, and so we had a big screen set up in the backyard, and we did some film screenings back there, and then a panel discussion with the directors and everything, and that was a fabulous event. I haven't done much with incorporating film in all of my shows. But it's interesting, and I think there's definitely opportunities for collaboration there. And Offshore, that event was fabulous. I was so thrilled to do that.
I like those guys a lot. I did some interviews with them. I got a little bit more involved with the Montauk Film Festival and those guys. And with my film background and working in Hollywood for all those years, and being a participant in so many films, I had a little bit more to bring to the table. But the Offshore guys, so somehow they were both connected at some point, and then they decided to do it differently. And I don't know why they, separately, and I don't know why they called it Offshore. Do you know why it's called the Offshore
I don't
Film
know
Festival?
for sure why it's called the Offshore Film Festival,
Yeah.
but that was their name. I think maybe because Montauk is, Long Island. We're at the very tip of the island, so they figured we're offshore of the greater U.S. New York area. I don't know.
Well, I tell you, if the tide keeps rising, that peak stretch is going to be underwater, so we will be an island.
Soon, Montauk really will be offshore.
We'll be an offshore island. But Jason over at Shagwan is a big supporter of the Offshore guys, and I've gone to a couple of their events there.
Yeah.
So I love that as much. So for me, film is a great art form, and I love that part of my art form. I also write, that's one of the reasons I asked you about that growth thing. How do you know if you're growing as an artist and as a writer? Edward Albee, who was out here. Edward Albee lived out here, and he was asked about, how do you write, and how do you choose to write, and what do you choose to write about, and what's your process? And he just said, I don't know, I just write to find out what I'm writing about. And that's kind of what it is for me. I'll be writing about something, and then suddenly some other thing starts happening. Even words. I'm like, wow, that was an interesting formulation. That came out of me. So I just find some other energy inside of me and some other voice that comes out when I'm writing. So and that's how I kind of know I grow a little bit is I'm more intelligent than myself when I'm writing things. And I'm like, wow, I sound like I'm smart. Who is that guy? So if I find somebody inside of me growing and speaking about things that I like to express, so but I don't know of any real measure, and I don't really sell any of my writing. So I've got a couple of things that would make a great movie. But I do now with that Bayside Experiment that I mentioned to everybody, BaysideExperiment.com. It does have a book in it. It's 13 chapters, and it's just about my years in Hollywood, my years at CBS television, and different stories and anecdotes that took place along the way. So that's 13 chapters of a book, but then there's another section that's called That Went Out with the Mayan Calendar. And I look at, and it's amazing that in our lifetime, the Mayan calendar ended in our lifetime, and we created a new species in our lifetime. So AI, a new species, was born at the exact same time that the Mayan calendar said, "Okay, that's enough for us. we'll let the calendar go. Take it on someplace else." So there's that section about that, and then there's another section. It's kind of like a blog, podcast thing, which I do stories like this. But so writing is really my medium. But so next time I come to your gallery, I have to write more about what you guys do. So the Lucore Gallery, the opening next weekend in the center of town, and what's happening at the Depot?
The Depot has a fabulous show on right now. They're showing David Slater and his friend Dominic, and then Aliska Jeanson's work, and it's a fabulous show. They've got some bigger pieces in there. I was very excited about. David Slater's work he's very impressive. He's somebody he's a real storyteller with his paintings.
I've heard his name, but I couldn't tell you what his art looks like. I don't know if you sent it to me in any of those slides, but I've heard his name a lot.
Yeah, I didn't send any of David's work in those slides, but he's got a fascinating style. And again, a storyteller, and paints experience from his life. And I will say, there's one piece of David Slater's work in that show. It's a 60 by 72, and I am obsessed with it. It's a ghost ship. It's a ship that he saw in one of his dreams, and it's the first thing you see when you walk in the Depot. I made sure I elevated it a little bit higher than everything else to kind of give it a feeling of importance, and it is worth a look.
So you give me the impression that he's one of those artists that you could look at and say, "Oh, that's a David Slater."
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
See, I love that when someone's work is so identifiable to them, and you looked at when Salvador Dali came out, you could tell, the bending of the clock, but the whole style, you could say, "Oh, that's a Salvador Dali." But so Slater, he's got that you could tell it's his.
Yes.
So now I have to get more familiar with him.
Yeah, and his friend that he brought in, Dominic, he has a fabulous contrasting style with him. So while David's pieces are very lively and full of activity and color, Dominic's pieces are a little bit more quietly constructed, and a lot of them are still very colorful, but they don't have the same energy as David's works. Not to say that that's a bad thing. It was actually a fabulous thing for me as a curator, because I was able to take David's works, which have so much energy, and then Dominic's works, which are a little more carefully created. Well, they're created in different ways, but contrasting styles. And I was able to one of David's, one of Dominic's, and then one of David's, one of Dominic's, and then Aliska's were in there. So you can sort of break up the energy and hang the show. Because of course, one option would be hang David on the left side of the room and hang Dominic on the right side of the room, but then things are separated. It doesn't read together as one cohesive show. And with their works contrasting the way they did, I was really able to, keep the energy flowing and consistent around the room without making it overwhelming or too heavy in any one spot of the room.
So there's an art to actually how to lay out a show.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and staggering them back and forth and back and forth. That's kind of fun. And so, but here's a big question for you. So when you mentioned that the more artists you have, they bring all their friends and they bring people. So that's one of the ways you get people to the gallery. How else do you get people to the gallery? Do you advertise? Do you you have a website?
Yes, I've got a website, thelucoreart.com. We've got hoodies and T-shirts available now. So if you want to help us advertise, you can get a hoodie and wear the Lucore art around with you. And of course, advertising in the local papers. The New York Star is a great supporter of us, and Dan's papers. They help with a lot of advertisements, and they've shown my works on the covers a couple of times.
Oh, yeah?
So a huge thanks to Dan's for all the
That's
support.
cool.
And then I talk about them, with people like you, invite me out to let me tell my story, and then just being involved at all the other galleries as well. Maybe you didn't stop in my gallery yet, but you stopped in the Depot gallery. My cards are in there. They'll tell you I help install the exhibitions and everything. So I'm trying to I keep a sense of community. You know, the gallery scene, I want us all to grow together.
But you don't show just Montauk artists. You show artists from any place.
I show predominantly East End artists,
Yeah.
artists who are based on Long Island. I mean, artists who are close to the gallery. But I
So
will.
Riverhead out, Port Washington, Port Jefferson out.
I won't say no to somebody whose work I'm excited about
Yeah.
because of where they're from or where they're coming from. Basically, my thought is Montauk is not the easiest place to get to, no matter where you're coming from. Even people who live in Springs, which is the next town over, are like, oh my God, I got to drive all the way to Montauk. So if you can make it out to Montauk and you can get your work to Montauk and you're spending time here, then you're a Montaukers to me.
When I sold my place in Southampton, my whole biorhythm of driving from the city and making it to Southampton, after years of doing it, you kind of feel and you kind of know it. So when you're getting close, your body's telling you. and simple things like you got to go to the bathroom. I can hold it.
I can make it. I'm almost there.
Yeah. But when I came out to Montauk, all of a sudden it's like, oh no, this is like another hour. It's like a really far stretch, but it's so worth it. It's another world out here. I love it so much. And look, I love my circle of friends. I love my place in Southampton. I was on the water. Had two swans that came up. They had personalities that I named them after. They were arrogance and vanity. I'd go to feed the one swan, and he'd wave his feathers at me and chase me off the beach, but he'd eat the food. I was like, you're pretty arrogant. And then the female was amazing. Every time, Chris, I swear to God, I would, and I showed friends of mine. I said, watch this. I'd go to feed it, and it would look at me, and then it would look down in the water like it was looking at itself. It would look at me, look down the water, and then it would eat it. And I was like, well, are you checking yourself out? You want to make sure you look good for dinner? So I called it vanity. So I had arrogance and vanity. And I do miss that about my home in Southampton. But I love living out in Montauk, and I love it so even more in the winter.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I love it more in the winter. So
Montauk's a gem in the winter. Quiets down a little bit. I mean, if it's fabulous in the summer with all the activity and everything happening, an event every weekend, and but especially if you're an artist, in the winter is your time to enjoy the quiet and to go back into the studio and work with the ideas and everything you've been thinking about all summer but haven't had time to do. And you go down to the beach and it's nobody's there. It's just you in the water. It's just you in Montauk, it feels like. So the winter is a very special time in Montauk. And that's part of why I like to keep my shows going all the way out till December, because even though people think of it as a summer town, it's gorgeous all year. I mean, it's a pretty temperate environment. Even in the winters, they don't get too cold. Maybe it snows once or twice, but you put on a coat, you can still go for a walk. It's all good.
It is so beautiful out here when it snows. It's even more beautiful in any place. But Dalton's show, he said, I know what you did last winter, because he said, what do you do in the winter? You're creating all your art. So he said, I know what you did last winter. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was a very well thought out title and
Yeah.
very, very accurate to what it's like being an artist living on the East End.
Well, listen, we don't have much more time. I love that I've gotten this with you, and I really like getting to know you better. And I can't wait to go to the next art gallery thing with you.
Yeah, I hope I'll see you on Saturday out at our Under the Sea by the Water show. There'll be lots of artists to talk to.
Yeah.
Lots of art.
So I want to go back to one topic that I started before.
course.
I mentioned a thing about pareidolia, seeing faces and things.
Yes.
You're an artist. Do you see anything like that? See something that might catch your eye and it kind of makes you think of something else?
Absolutely, all the time.
Oh, good.
And I think there's a balance with that. Especially, I'm an abstract artist, so like when you're working abstractly, things pop out in your work. Everybody sees something different. Somebody you could be doing something and your intention is one thing, and then somebody comes in and looks at it and they see, oh, there's a face in there. I've actually had one of my circle compositions. There was a perfect profile of a face that just showed up in there, and
But not intentional. It
not
just
intentional
happened.
at all. And somebody pointed it out to me one day, and I rotated the piece 90 degrees because
Yeah.
I didn't feel like it fit the composition. But then sometimes the opposite happens. You'll be doing something and then you'll see something in your own work and it'll totally fit. It'll be like what was happening subconsciously in your mind and it just came out, and that's beautiful. That I think is worthy of embracing, and that's what's been pushing me to loosen up and allow for more discovery in my work. I think it's been making things very exciting.
So when the accident happened and the face kind of showed up there, you weren't like Jackson Pollock, who says, I used the accident. There's no accident. I used the accident. But you've been down to the Hero thing. So you've looked at the hoodoos on the side of the mountain that look like faces.
Yes.
So, and when I told people that, they're like, "Oh, Greg, really?" He said, "Look, I'm going to take you to show you the hoodoos." And then you go down. For anybody who doesn't know, down at one of the last places that you can go to, a little park, little turnoff right before you get to the lighthouse. It says Hero Beach and Hero Park, and you make a right in there. And then there are these kind of plaques, the kind of thing that you'd see at any kind of park, and it says, "You are here," and you look that way and that way and this way. But it talks about the hoodoos, and the Indians believe that they were the spirits of their ancestors that it came in to inhabit the land. And what happens is in the cliffs, when it rains and the water erodes the sand and the dirt, sometimes the formations totally look like profiles of some Indian looking out into the water. You just can't deny it. And then once you see it, you can't unsee it. You're going, oh no, there's another hoodoo. So I have a, could I have an art gallery showing at your place of all of my pictures of hoodoos? I must have 50.
We'll probably have to talk about this.
Yeah. Yeah, but I've taken a lot of pictures of the hoodoos, and some of them are so. People look at it and say, "That's amazing." At how that looks with the eyes and the nose and everything.
There's one thing that I think really inspired me about being out here that goes along with that. Have you ever been to the Victor D'Amico house?
No.
So it's out by the Art Barge, and it's the house and studio of Victor D'Amico and his wife Maybelle. And they built the house from scratch, and they used it as their studio, and they found all types of stuff, and they after they passed, they preserved the house exactly as it was. And you can go visit and go into their studio and see this house that they built and where it is and all their stuff everywhere. And one thing they really talk to you while you're there about is the importance they saw in the balance between making things happen and letting things happen. And that was always extremely powerful for me in my work, because like that's when the faces pop up, when stuff like that, when that happens, that's letting things happen. And you have to decide, did I want this to happen? Or should I change it? Should I make something else happen? And so it's the balance of, it's yours, you're making all of this, but you're also allowing things to happen in your process as you go. So great place to visit.
But it's by the Art Barge.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it over there. That road, so when you make that right and you go all the way through with the telephone poles that are all kind of like shifting left and right. But I love that road. It's so gorgeous, and then that whole back road going. I never take Montauk Highway all the way back in.
And the horizon back there at Lazy Point. Oh my God, it's gorgeous.
I went to Lazy Point with. Some of the people from the CCOM, the Concerned Citizens of Montauk, they were doing environmental things. And every year they go and they, on the full moon in spring, they go and they count the horseshoe crabs that are over there. And Jimmy Grimes, and a great guy in Montauk. And Jimmy knows everybody whoever came to Montauk. He knows the migrations. He said, well, these people came from Nova Scotia, and these people came down from Montreal. So in that video that I'm doing about Montauk and the history of Montauk, he's been priceless for me. But I went over there one night. I posted it on my Instagram thing of walking out there with him in the middle of the night with a flashlight, looking at all these horseshoe crabs mating. And he's counting them all, but Lazy Point is gorgeous, and all the windsurfers. That's where all the windsurfers go over in that little pocket of water. Mm. So that's I love it. It's kind of a little secret. Maybe we shouldn't have talked about it. But.
Yeah,
But
Lazy what? Huh?
yeah, but that whole area on that side over by Devon and the Devon Yacht Club, and then the next things. It's so gorgeous out there,
Gorgeous.
and still untouched. It's like been like that for a long time. Well, listen, I really like that you came here, that you let me talk to you, and you shared all your thoughts about art and the Lucore Gallery. I think it's very cool. You're a very cool guy. You opened up a gallery in Montauk, and I love the thought of you of the fact that you want Montauk recognized for the art community that it is. It is really this wonderful, very creative little pocket at the end of the island, and you've helped create that identity or share that identity, and that's a good thing for the town. I hope the Chamber of Commerce appreciates you, because it changes the nature of it from just being some touristing to being a really wonderful artist community. So thanks for that.
And thank you to the Chamber. I love them a lot. They help me a lot with putting the word out about my shows and sending people to my gallery. So definitely, we're all the galleries in Montauk, we're all working together here, and we're bringing the art up.
Very, very cool. Well, so we the center of town. There's going to be the art show in the center green. There's the art depot at the end of the Long Island Railroad, with a wonderful gallery there. And please make sure you log into the Bayside Experiment. The Bayside Experiment is kind of like a working title right now. Like we would do in the film industry, you do something under a different name until you're ready to launch it completely. But the living novel, that genre of literature, you'll find it in there. And when this show goes on, we take off the landing page and we explore it, and people talk to us together. So check it out, thebaysideexperiment.com. And Chris, thank you again for coming. Great.
Thank you for
Great
having
talking
me.
to you.